Right, let's revise the topic on plant reproduction. Alright, now let's take a look. Now let's answer the first question. Why do plants reproduce? Yes, why do plants reproduce? And the answer is, they want their species to survive. They want their own kind to continue to survive. Okay, now I hope this reminds you of your learning log, and you should be looking through your learning log as you revise, read tonight, yesterday, or even tomorrow. Now, what is pollination? Give yourself 5 seconds to come up with the answer. What does pollination means? And I hope you know that pollination is the movement of pollen grains from the anther to the stigma. Now, how does this happen? Well, there are two common ways which pollination can happen. One is known as wind pollination, and you will know that a flower can be wind pollinated, a plant can be wind pollinated if you notice that the anther here is dangling by the side, is loose, so when wind blows, it blows onto this. And the petals are not, now you don't see petals in a way, blocking the wind, right, from reaching the pollen grains. And the stigma as well is also exposed, it's not hidden inside any petals. So when wind blows the pollen over to this particular part of the flower, the stigma can catch the pollen. Other ways would be through insect pollination like bees, ants, or butterflies. They'll go to flowers and then they will go and look for the nectar in the flowers, and as they do so, pollens will get rubbed onto their bodies. When they go to another flower, this pollen may fall off onto the stigma of another flower. Now you will notice the characteristics of plants that are wind pollinated. Yes, the flowers are all brightly colored. So this is done to attract the insects over to the flowers. Now once pollination happens, we have the next stage in the plant reproduction, which is known as fertilization. So when the pollen lands on the surface of the pollen, produces a tube known as a pollen tube. Alright, and this tube will go all the way down into the ovary and into the egg cell or the ovule. Right, and once it fertilizes this egg cell, right, you have fertilization. What happens after that? Well, what will the ovule become? What will the ovary become? Do you remember? Well, let's take a look at the next slide. During fertilization, the ovules in the ovary becomes seeds. Alright, becomes seeds. And the ovary swells, you see, it becomes bigger, swells to become the fruit. And if the seeds are dispersed, these seeds can germinate under the right condition where it has warmth, oxygen, and water, and just a new life cycle. So why do plants disperse their seeds? Now remember, this is a different question from why do plants reproduce. So why do plants disperse their seeds? I'm sure this is quite interesting picture here. You see bird droppings are inside you, and they're actually tiny, tiny seeds. So why do plants disperse their seeds? Do you know the answer? Yes. It's to avoid overcrowding. Now, if it's not dispersed, seeds germinate close together. They will compete for water and nutrients, for soil, and even for sunlight. Now, there are several different ways of seed dispersal. Okay, let's take a look at the first kind, seeds that are dispersed by wind. Alright, this is one kind. What do you think are the characteristics of seeds that are dispersed by wind? Now, they are not all the same. You still need to examine the picture to understand the characteristic of that particular seed. For this one, you can see from the picture that it must be small and light, and it is feathery like structures that enable to catch the wind and to be blown away. How about this kind of seeds? Now, you're not given the size, but I'm not sure if you recall this. I showed you this in class. This is the seed of the African tulip. Now, this is small and it's very light, and it has this thing called a wing-like structures. And these are the two of what we saw at the Yishun Park. Now, these are not as light as the first two, but they certainly have wing-like structures that allow it to fly when wind blows. And this ability to fly in the wind allows it to be dispersed and to land further away from the parent plant to avoid overcrowding. Now, seeds that are dispersed by water have different characteristics. Usually, they have waterproof outer covering so the seed can float on water. Besides that, do you see these parts inside here? These parts here, these are what is known as fibrous husk, and this traps air. Do you recall the experiment I did when I put in the mandarin oranges in the tank of water? And when I peel open the skin, you saw bubbles. Those bubbles were actually air that was trapped inside the husk, the fibrous part of the orange. Alright, and this air that's trapped inside also allow and help the seed to float on water. Now, seeds can also be dispersed by animals. Now, what do you think of the characteristics of seeds that are dispersed by animals as shown here? Yes, these seeds must have been quite delicious. They're sweet and they're juicy. Now, some of these fruits have small seeds, so the animals may eat the whole fruits and pass it out to the anus, no matter where they are. And these droppings that contain the seed, well, we will start germinating from there. Now, some seeds are large, like this mango seed. Now, they will not be sowing the seed, so they discard and just throw the seed all over the place. And this also helps you to disperse it away from the parent plant. There are other seeds that are dispersed by animals that are not juicy nor sweet. There are seeds like this, alright? They are small, and what you notice here? What kind of structures? Yes, they have hooks to hook on the fur of animals. So when animals walk to other places and they brush it off their body, the seeds can fall off and germinate in a new place away from the parent plant. Last but not least, they also seeds they are dispersed by explosive action. Alright, usually you will notice that they are in seed pods. And when this seed pod splits open, it splits open so strongly that the seeds fly away from the parent plant. Now they don't fly so far away, so very often you will find that seeds dispersed by explosive action land somewhat near to the parent plant, maybe a few meters away. But be very careful how you answer this, because I do see students writing things like explode or explosion. Now these are words you use to talk about gunpowder, right, or bombs or missiles, not for plants. I know some of you use another word to describe this. Use splitting. That's fine. Just don't misspell the word. Now let's take a look at this question. Now for questions like this, alright, it's important to think of three things. Alright, it may look confusing, but not to worry. Remember these three things. Number one, alright, look at the location of the parent plants. Alright, you must know where they are. You may like to circle it or highlight it with a different color highlighter. Second thing, you look at the dispersal pattern. Look at where the young plants are located. For plant A, it's all around the parent plant A. So that will suggest to you that the seeds of plant A are dispersed by explosive action. You look at the seeds of plant B, notice all over the place. Now this means that it could be two reasons. It could be by wind or by animals. But which one? We will know yet until we look at the third point. Okay. But we know it's not by water, because although some of them are found near to the river banks, near the river, but most of them are found inland, away from the water. So I'm very sure it's not dispersed by water. The third pattern we notice is the one for plant C, and this is found only along the river banks. That will tell us clearly this is dispersed by water. Now that's why among these three, the more confusing one will be plant B. Some of you may think it's dispersed by wind, some of you may think it's dispersed by animals, but there's a way to find out which one. And we must look at the third point, which is direction of the wind and the river flow. Now we know if the wind is blowing this way most of the time of the year, that means that if a plant disperses its seed by wind, you'll find, and if let's say for example A is a parent plant disperses the seeds by wind, then you notice that you should see A all along this direction. Maybe this part, this part, this part. Now let's look at plant B now. Is plant B dispersed by wind? If it is, there should be plant B over here on the other side of the river. but there is not a single plant B here. Alright, yet on the other hand, you find plant B all over the place here. So it's quite clear that plant B is not dispersed. The seed is not dispersed by wind, it must be by animal. So you put it all together, you can have a full picture and you know how to interpret this diagram. Now let's look at the answer. Plant A. How is plant A dispersed? Very clearly, we talked about it early on. The pattern is this pattern that's splattered around. Alright, and the reason is plant A are just found near to the parent plant A. That's how we know it's dispersed by explosive action. And how about plant B? We talked about it earlier. Plant B is the seed of plant B dispersed by animal. And how do we know? Because it's found all over the place. Some of you give very good answers. You talk about it's not just along the direction of the flow, or it's not in the direction of the wind. These are good answers. But I think to me, a simple answer is just it's found all over the place with no particular pattern. Lastly, this question asks us what are the characteristics of the seeds of plant C. Now we're not given a picture of plant C, but we know from the diagram that this seed is dispersed by dispersal by water. Therefore, it should have one or both the characteristics, which is, first we must state we know this, we know it's dispersed by water, so we can say that, well, it should have waterproof outer covering, or it can also have fibrous husk. Okay, and with this I conclude my revision with you on plant reproduction, and I wish you all the best in your test tomorrow. Bye bye, good night.